What's going on, everyone? So with my latest video, this is another top 10 video, and if you're new to the channel, keep in mind that my top 10 videos are subjective, not objective, meaning that my top 10 is going to be different from yours, and that's what's great about film as an art form. Now, you clicked on this video, so you know what, I'm giving you guys my top 10 favorite film scores of all time. Now, this is a video that I've been looking forward to do for quite some time, but a little bit of backstory. What really got the ball rolling, so to speak, with me wanting to do this and solidifying it, like, yes, this is going to be a 2025 video, was that my sister-in-law, Angela Pelteca, shout out to her, had asked me around Christmas time of 2024 what my top 10 favorite film scores of all time were. And I told her straight up, I am working on that. It's one of those things where it's difficult to really kind of, set in stone that these are my top 10 favorite and that it probably will change over time, but that I will get back to you in a year and I will give you it. So that's what this video is, essentially. But it was very difficult to do. Again, it took me literally a year to come up with it because I kept shifting the list, and a lot of films were making it too, and then some got taken out. So it was one of those things where it was a lot to deal with. And I did have fun with it, though, overall, and I do have other composers where I did top 10 videos of leading up to this, so be sure to check those videos out on my playlist down below. But anyways, I'm going to give you guys my 5 honorable mentions, and I'm going to go from 10 to 1, with number 1 being my favorite film score of all time as of the filming of this video, which is November 30th of 2025. Now, again, keep in mind it is subjective, not objective, so I do look forward to seeing what your top 10 will look like in the comment section down below. But guys, enough exposition. Let's get started. So kicking things off with the first honorable mention, we have Vertigo. Now, full disclosure, I own all 4 of these, as you see: Rear Window, Vertigo, Psycho, and The Birds. I was going back and forth between Vertigo and Psycho in particular. I think Rear Window has a great film score, but I was really going back and forth between Vertigo and Psycho. And I think what really made me go with Vertigo over Psycho was the fact that Psycho, while I think it's a fantastic score, I think it's more so the main theme that really sticks with me, versus Vertigo. It's not just the main theme, it is the romantic theme. It is, a lot of different components to that film. The dream sequence. There are a lot of different scenes that really stand out because of the score. So that's what ultimately made me choose Vertigo. But again, if you were to have Psycho or even Rear Window in this film's place, I would understand. But Vertigo, it's a great film, and the score in particular is fantastic, and that's why I would have had an honorable mention. Next honorable mention, we have an incredible film, a masterpiece, and we have Moonlight. So Moonlight is interesting in that the score, if you go on like Apple Music or just Spotify, the score, there really isn't much. There's like 30 minutes, but those 30 minutes that Nicholas Brittle brings to life is something to behold. I love the fact that each character has their own theme. I love the fact that it's very emotionally engaging, and I've listened to the score many times by itself, and it just is so riveting. I think it's a fantastic film, as I mentioned, but I really do think that the score in particular works in regards to itself, but also even better in the film itself, combined with the visuals. So I love the score for Moonlight, and I just think that it is one of the best of the 21st century, and that's why I have it as an honorable mention. Next honorable mention, we're going all the way back to the 80s, which some people might look at as too old, but I disagree. So next honorable mention, we have The Last Temptation of Christ, a 1988 film directed by Martin Scorsese and written by Paul Schrader. And what can I say? Last Temptation of Christ is one of those films that I come back to, or try to, I should say, every Easter. And one of the things that sticks out the most about that film, besides the cinematography, besides the sound mixing, is the score itself. I just think it's so evocative. I just think it's so emotionally riveting, and it just really works with everything that's being depicted on screen. And I think it really does help also the pacing move. So I love the score. I think that if you haven't sat down and watched the film, I would highly recommend you do so for the score alone. But let me just say this, if you don't want to check out the film for some reason, do listen to the score on its own, because the score is so good. And that's why I have it as an honorable mention. Next honorable mention, this is one that's, ironically enough, quickly gone up the ranks in terms of one of my favorite films of all time. That honorable mention we have being Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and I will say this right away. This is one of those film scores that I've always been fascinated by, because I had heard the main theme song of this film before several times growing up, because in the trailers for Pirates of the Caribbean, they had the teaser trailer play the music for this film. So it was one of those things when I first saw Bram Stoker's Dracula, I was like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. And then I looked it up and I'm like, oh, they used this music in the Pirates of the Caribbean teaser trailer. Got it. But what's crazy is that track, it's amazing, but every single track in this film is incredible. I think the opening track itself is just, I think it's like 5 to 7 minutes. It's so good at really building and building and building to an incredible crescendo. Every character also has a main theme, which is amazing. I think that having theme songs in a score is something that I love. It's one of those instances where I think it really adds character to not only the film and the characters themselves, but also the score. And this is one of those films that definitely does that, and I think it's why it stands out so much. So I love Bram Stoker's Dracula, but I also especially love the score, and that's why I have it as an honorable mention. Last honorable mention. This one was so close to making my top 10, and I'll be honest, for a couple months there, it was in my top 10, but it got out just a little bit, unfortunately. My number 10, we have The Social Network. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross deliver a fantastic score. One of the best of the 21st century, if not of all time. It zips by, man. Not only does it zip by in the film itself, like, holy cow, the pacing of this film is incredible, large part because of the way that the score moves, but the score also works so well on its own, and it's definitely really good workout music, just music you can listen to in general. So I love the score for this film. If you've been sleeping on this film for some reason, highly recommend you check it out, or at the very least, check out the score because it is so, so good. And that's why I have it as my last honorable mention. All right, guys, and now we are in the top 10. Kicking things off in the top 10, we have Blade Runner. So Blade Runner is a film that, truth be told, has cropped up in a lot of my lists. It's in my top 25 of all time. It's also in my top 10 films that changed me. And one of the reasons why this film changed me is that I was really taken aback by the score of this film. Like, I will never forget seeing that opening scene and not only being blown away by the visual effects, the practical effects, and just the makeup, but also the score. Like, it really sets the stage for this world that you were about to be expanded into. And again, Vangelis did an incredible job. They've done many great scores. I think the score for Alexander is really good, Chariots of Fire. But Blade Runner is easily their best score, and it's one of the best scores, not only of the 1980s, but of the 20th century. It is so, so good. And also, it's a wide range. Like, if you listen to it, there's some jazzy music. It has a really good love theme. I also think that the Tears in the Rain track is just an all-timer. Really, really good score. Again, I would highly recommend watching the film. It's one of the greatest sci-fi films of all time. But the score in itself also is up there as one of the best scores of all time. That's why I have it in my personal top 10. Next up, my number 9. This was one that was originally my honorable mentions, but I couldn't get out of my mind. So I decided to say, you know what? I'm moving this up in the list. My number 9, we have Chinatown. So I think one of the reasons why I had Chinatown in my honorable mentions was that I was thinking to myself, well, the score itself on Apple and everything is only around 30 minutes. But then I was thinking to myself, yeah, but those 30 minutes are really effective. I mean, you have many different themes for each character. That love theme is amazing as well. And it's just a score that not only is evoking the 1940s of the noir era, but in many ways it also set the standard for neo-noirs for the future. And that's something that I think is really effective. I mean, even if you look at Jerry Goldsmith's other neo-noir that in many ways paid homage to Chinatown was LA Confidential. And I'll be honest, LA Confidential and Chinatown, they were duking it out. Like, these were two films that I was like, it's very difficult for me to choose between because I love both of them. But I ultimately went with Chinatown, not only just because it came first, but in many ways because it was so influential to all these different film scores that would come after it. So I think Chinatown's a fantastic score. I think that once you hear the theme song in particular, it's one of those film scores that really sticks with you. And the score as a whole really works with the imagery on display. And there are just so many iconic moments that work as well as they do, not just because of the dialogue and acting, but because of how effective that score is. So highly recommend you guys check out Chinatown, and that's why I have it as my number 9. Next up, my number 8. This is a one-of-a-kind score. My number 8, we have The Thin Red Line. So The Thin Red Line is a Hans Zimmer score, and Journey to the Line is one of my favorite tracks of all time. If you have not, unfortunately, heard that track, I highly recommend you at the very least listen to that track. But what's great is that track, it builds and builds and builds, and it's so good at building to a crescendo. But the thing is with the rest of the score is that it doesn't really do that as much, which is why that track is so effective, because a lot of the score is very calming and soothing and matching like the, naturalistic approach of everything. But when there are war scenes, Hans Zimmer does deliver in regards to really making for an effective, intense experience. But again, those evocative sounds of nature are something that Hans Zimmer really did a good job of putting together and really matching the cinematography on display. It's one of the most beautiful films of all time, and it just so happens that this is also one of the best sounding films of all time, in large part because of Hans Zimmer's score. So I highly recommend The Thin Red Line. It is, spoiler alert, probably my favorite war film of all time, just one of my favorite films of all time in general. So highly recommend you guys check out the score. That's why I have The Thin Red Line as my number 8. Next up, my number 7, this was the film that, I'll be honest, will always have a special place in my heart because it was the first film that I saw as an 18-year-old, therefore in America being an adult. And that is my number 7. We have The Grand Budapest Hotel. The Grand Budapest Hotel is a film that won Best Original Score, which I believe up to this point... Oh, wait. I was about to say that this is, up to this point, the only one that is on my list that has actually won the Oscar for Best Original Score. But I got to redact that statement because The Social Network actually won Best Original Score, deservingly so. Grand Budapest Hotel was one of those instances where it had been almost 20 years since a comedy had won Best Original Score. And it just goes to show how effective this film score is because it works on multiple levels. It's a multi-genre facet of a film, which is typical Wes Anderson. But the thing is with Alexander Desplat is that he delivers on all those genres. There are some action scenes in this film, and believe it or not, that score really does a great job of making those action scenes intense, whilst at the same time having, hints of comedy to, inject into the scenes. There are a lot of adventurous scenes. There are a lot of, as I mentioned, comedy scenes, caper scenes. There are a lot of different genres in this film, and Alexander Desplat hits the notes on every single one. There are a lot of different themes for each character, which is also something that I mentioned earlier that I find to be very effective when done right. This film does that. So it's able to do all this in the span of 100 minutes, and it's one of those scores that I have listened to countless times on its own, but when I especially listen to it while watching the film, I love how much it works. So I think it's one of the greatest films of all time personally, but I think at the very least, even if you're not a big fan of this film, there's no denying the score and how impactful it is. And that's why I have it as my number 7. Next up, my number 6. This is the film that, for the longest time, was my number 1 favorite film of all time, but recently got knocked down to my number 2. But that's not to say that, of course, it's a bad film. If anything, it's still one of my favorite films of all time because it's my number 2. And the score is also fantastic. And that is my number 6, American Beauty. Thomas Newman delivers an impeccable score. This is why I love scores. As I mentioned earlier with some of the other films, every character in this film has their own theme. This is a film that's able to balance comedy and drama well, not only because of the acting, the script writing, the directing, but because of the score. The score doesn't miss a beat. Every single track is perfect. I think that there are some of the best dramatics, tracks in this film of the 90s. There are some of the best comedic track of the 90s. It does it all, and I think it's so effective, and I just think that this film score is one of the greatest, and personally my favorite Thomas Newman score. So, highly recommend you guys check out the score. Love American Beauty, love the score, and that's why I have it as my number 6. And now we get to the nitty-gritty, top 5, guys. So kicking things off, my number 5. My number 5 and 6 were two that were battling it out for the longest time. And my number 5, it could be that I rewatched it more recently, but it ended up taking the number 5 slot. My number 5, we have The Silence of the Lambs. So The Silence of the Lambs and American Beauty are two of my favorite films of the 90s and just in general of all time. It's one of those things where it's difficult to choose between Howard Shore and Thomas Newman, especially since they deliver two of the best scores of the 1990s. But I think what I ended up choosing regarding my number 5 slot, in many ways, not only deals with the more recency of rewatching this film, but also has to do with the fact that there is even more variety than the American Beauty score. In large part because this is a score that, yes, American Beauty works as a comedy and drama regarding the score. This, I feel like, does 3 different genres. It has to balance drama, because yes, there are a lot of dramatic moments in this film. There are a lot of thrilling moments that this film does really well. And of course, horror. And it manages to do all of those really, really well. And I think that it also has just some of the greatest tracks of all time. I mean, the hospital scene, That's all I'm going to say. That track is just rent-free in my mind, as the kids say these days. It's a truly fantastic track, but as a whole, it's a film that works incredibly well. And in my eyes, it's a perfect film, but it also, in large part, is because of that score. I mean, think about it. The first minute of the film, one of the things you first hear is the Howard Shore score, and it really sets the mood for the film, and it does so in a very effective way. So I love The Silence of the Lambs. I think that if you've been sleeping on this film, what are you waiting for? Check it out. But at the very least, even if you're not a big fan of the film, there's no denying the power of Howard Shore's score, and that's why I have it as my number 5. Next up, my number 4, talk about childhood. I mentioned with Bram Stoker's Dracula how I had first heard the theme of that film in the Pirates of the Caribbean trailer, and I have a similar story with my number 4. My number 4, we have Requiem for a Dream. So no, I did not watch Requiem for a Dream as a kid. I probably would have been scarred forever. What happened was I had watched the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers trailer many times, and I always remember thinking to myself, that music in this trailer is incredible. But I was always kind of disappointed that it wasn't in the film itself of the Two Towers. Of course, years later, I realized that trailer music is usually from other sources, not from the film itself. But of course, as a 12-year-old, you don't realize that. But it was always one of those things where I had wanted to hear the film score itself, but I didn't really know what it was coming from. That is until I actually watched Requiem for a Dream, and I'm like, this is the music that was in the Two Towers trailer music. Okay. And the film itself immediately struck a chord with me. It's very effective at just traumatizing you. I mean, there are some tracks in this film that they live rent-free in my mind, but for all the wrong reasons. They're the type of people that just, they don't want to get out of there because they're, traumatized. And I'm like, I'm traumatized too. That's what this film score does, man. It's very intense. There are some soothing tracks for sure, but there are a lot of tracks where it's like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm having a panic attack. So it's a very anxiety-inducing score. But the thing is, it works so well with the film itself, especially with how it builds to that third act. And this score matches that beat for beat regarding the pacing. So it's one of the greatest scores of all time. Clint Mansell did a fantastic job. I love a lot of his film scores. I think he's a great composer. But there has yet to be a score that has matched this one. And, rightfully so, because it's one of the greatest scores, in my opinion. So Requiem for a Dream, that's my number 4. Next up, my number 3. This was also difficult because this composer produced, in my opinion, 3 scores that all could have made this list, but again, with each composer, I wanted to choose just one film score, which I should have mentioned earlier, but here we are. My number 3, we have The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Ennio Morrisone's score is just God tier, honestly. It's one of those instances of when you listen to the score for the first time, it's really amazing to hear how effective it is in the film itself. And I say that because I feel like this is one of those film scores that, especially in American culture, is so embedded. Like, I remember a lot of times watching football games and during commercials, they would play this theme song. So when I finally saw the film, I'm like, oh, that's where that theme song comes from. Okay, that's where that music from the, beer commercials are coming from. Got it. Or all the countless parodies that, were from this film. So it's one of those instances where, because of how much it's embedded into pop culture, I feel like sometimes people forget how great this score is. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here to tell you, this score is so effective. It is one of the greatest of all time. If you've been sleeping on this film, I highly recommend you check it out, especially if you like Westerns and war films, but especially if you love great film scores. This is one of the greatest, and that's why I have it as my number 3. Next up, my number 2. This is, I would say, possibly the film score that, really got me into films itself. And I know some people might say, oh, I'm surprised you don't have Star Wars on here. And that's large part because as great as that filmography is regarding the scores, I gotta say, I think that my number 2, I think a lot of you will agree, is the better one. And that's my number 2, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, or AKA just Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think that this is just one of those film scores where if there's ever an apocalypse, this is one of those film scores where you put it on a CD and you have it underground so that way the next generation of aliens or whomever finds it is able to listen to it and say, wow, this is what humans were able to produce. This is one of the greatest things I've heard. My life is forever changed. That is what the Raiders of the Lost Ark score is in a nutshell. It is adventurous, it is heart-pumping, it is thrilling, it's romantic when need be, it's dramatic when need be. It is the full house of what a film score can do. And I will say this, it almost made my number one. But there's a film that I like a little bit better regarding the score. And that's saying something because, again, I think the score for Raiders of the Lost Ark is an all-timer. It is one of those scores where anytime I listen to it or when I'm watching the film and I'm listening to score, I just feel so giddy. Especially during that chase scene at the end regarding the desert chase. Like that's an all-timer regarding the cars and everything. It's amazing. But anyways, Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's my number two. Next up, my number one. This is a film score that I am disappointed to say that it's very difficult to find on like Spotify or Apple. You can listen to it regarding like YouTube. And I do have the CD actually, so I can listen to it in my car. But I wish that this score was more readily available, especially since the composer recently died. Some of you may have guessed it. My number one, we have Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive is a score that, for me, there is Chad Sabourin before Mulholland Drive, and then there's Chad Sabourin after Mulholland Drive. And in large part, one could argue it's because of David Lynch's directing, the performances, the evocative imagery. But I will say this, it's also because of the score. I felt like a spiritual or almost religious experience, like listening to this film score for the first time. And every time since, I mean, it is a wide range of emotions that this film score is able to evoke, which is one of the things that I love about film scores and why I always triumph them and say to directors that, hey, you guys really should utilize film scores and not have it be just like background noise. Because when you have the right film score and when it's actually mixed well, it can really do a great job of evoking emotions into audiences. And I will say this, with Mulholland Drive, David Lynch's sound mixing are always really experimental, but they always make sure to put the score in the middle of the mix, so that way audiences can actually hear it. And there are so many moments of this film that focus around music. And Mulholland Drive just does a great job of really, getting audiences on board with not only the characters, but also their situations, in large part because of the score. I mean, every character has their own theme song. It's also just a wide range of genres that are being tackled, and tonally, it's also a film that messes with a lot of different genres in a way that, because of how great the score is, works so well. So I love Mulholland Drive. Right now, as the film of this video, November 30th, 2025, it is my favorite film of all time. And again, in large part, not only because of all the elements I mentioned, but because of just how great the film score is. So, Mulholland Drive is my number one favorite film score. But you guys, that's my top 10 favorite film scores. Let me know what yours is in the comment section down below. I might be doing my top 10 favorite soundtracks of all time, so stay tuned for that. Remember, film score is instrumental, soundtrack is lyrical, but I will be potentially doing that in the future. But either way, guys, I appreciate you guys for watching. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscription, notification bell, follow me down on Letterboxd, Patreon, and I will catch you guys later.